Welcome to the Smart Teas podcast. Think about the meeting you had yesterday morning.
Yeah, I'm sure we all had at least one.
Right. And right now, without looking at your screen or checking your notes, can you name the exact 3 things you personally promised to deliver and exactly when they are due?
Oh, man. If you're like 90% of professionals, you absolutely cannot.
You cannot. You are likely losing, I don't know, hours of your working life to this pervasive corporate phenomenon where these brilliant conversations happen, everyone nods enthusiastically, and then
A week later, no one actually knows who is doing what.
exactly.
It is arguably the most universal pain point of the modern professional landscape. I mean, we spend a massive portion of our careers just sitting in conference rooms or staring at video grids.
Yeah, totally.
Yet that translation mechanism, the bridge from talking about a strategy to actually executing that strategy, it frequently just collapses.
So, our mission for this deep dive is to rebuild that bridge. We are unpacking a really comprehensive guide by Felix Römer, which was published on smartkeys.org, and it's titled Meeting Note Templates. Never miss action items in your team meetings.
It's a fantastic resource.
And we are not just doing this to clean up your administrative housekeeping.
Far from it. Actually, I think it is critical to state right up front that this guide is fundamentally a strategic look at business efficiency.
Right.
Like how a team captures, records, and distributes its decisions is a direct reflection of its operational maturity. We're talking about the future of work here, where clarity just outpaces sheer volume.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you think about most standard team meetings today, they kind of operate like someone trying to catch rain with a tennis racket.
I love that analogy.
Right. You're pouring all this incredibly valuable time, all these brilliant insights and crucial tasks into the conversation. But because there's no structural funnel in place to catch and direct them, everything just slips through the strings.
Yeah, you get completely wet, but you don't actually capture any water you can drink later.
Exactly. You are left with nothing but a vague memory of a really good chat.
Which is dangerous. And turning that tennis racket into a proper funnel requires a pretty fundamental shift in how we approach the very concept of documentation.
How so?
Well, the source material demands a complete change in organizational philosophy. We have to prioritize action over transcription.
Okay, action over transcription.
Yeah, the biggest trap in note-taking, the one that absolutely guarantees the tennis racket effect, is assuming the note-taker is supposed to be a court stenographer.
Wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this, because I feel like the instinct for most people is that more information is always better.
It's a very common instinct, yeah.
So if we only capture, high-level bullets and we do not transcribe the conversation, are we risking serious misinterpretation?
I see where you're going with this.
Like, what happens a month down the line when a stakeholder gets replaced, right? And they need to know the nuance of why a specific marketing budget was slashed. If we don't have the verbatim record, don't we lose that crucial context?
It's a totally valid concern. And honestly, it is usually why people default to typing furiously throughout a one-hour call. But the guide provides a very specific counter to this fear.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we tend to treat meeting notes like historical archives, but they aren't. They're forward-looking contracts.
Forward-looking contracts, I like that.
Yeah, the moment you stop writing history and start writing contracts, your team's execution doubles. So to address that context problem you mentioned, the solution lies in combining extremely light formatting with modern technology.
How does that actually work in practice, though?
You use scannable formats like concise bullet lists to make the actual document highly readable. The notes are laser-focused on capturing just 3 elements:
Which are?
high-level themes, decisions made, and specifically assigned tasks. And a task is not a task unless it has a designated owner and a due date.
Right. Without an owner, it's just a wish.
Exactly. Then, to create that safety net you just asked about for the context, you pair those lean notes with a direct link to a shared cloud document, or the raw audio and video recording of the meeting.
Oh, I see the mechanism there. It effectively separates the what we are doing from the how we arrived there.
Precisely. You provide a failsafe for that one person who missed the session, or for the new stakeholder who needs to investigate the nuance, right?
Yeah.
But you do it without clogging up the actionable notes for the 90% of the team who just need to know what their next task is. The notes are the engine for action, and the links recording is the archive for context.
So we established that baseline of action over transcription, but the guide makes it pretty clear that we can't just use one generic piece of paper for every single interaction, right?
No, definitely not. One size does not fit all.
So the strategic purpose of your meeting dictates the format of the record you keep. Let's walk through this spectrum, maybe starting with the most common scenario, basic or recurring team huddles.
Right. For a recurring huddle, the entire priority is sheer speed and alignment. You are not writing a novel, you know. You're just taking the pulse of the team.
Makes sense.
So the template here focuses on a clear header with attendees, a few short bullets for the agenda, and capturing decisions. But the defining feature of this specific template is the mechanism of rolling items forward.
Which means basically physically pulling last week's unchecked action items into today's blank document.
Yes, exactly. Before the meeting even starts, the note-taker drags any incomplete tasks from the previous week directly to the top of the new agenda.
Oh, wow. So there's no hiding.
None. It makes accountability immediately visible at a glance. It forces a very public check-in on completion. You also include quick one-line highlights for wins and blockers.
And let's define blockers for anyone unfamiliar with the term. We're talking about obstacles preventing a team member from finishing a task, usually requiring some cross-functional help, right?
Correct. So if marketing cannot launch a campaign because they are, say, waiting on a legal approval, that is a blocker. Surfacing it in a fast bullet point highlights exactly where cross-team intervention is needed today. Then you just finish the huddle notes with the date and a provisional agenda for the next meeting to maintain momentum.
Okay, so we've solved basic internal alignment. But the moment you scale up to a detailed project meeting, the stakes change entirely.
Oh, completely.
You are no longer just managing your team's daily time, you are managing complex deliverables, budgets, cascading deadlines. How does the template adapt to that?
Well, a project meeting is fundamentally about managing risk. Therefore, the template shifts to become highly analytical. You organize updates around a visual status indicator, often a RAG status, meaning red, amber, or green.
Like a traffic light system.
Exactly. And you track variance and milestones to make schedule slippage visible well before it becomes a crisis.
Just to clarify variance for everyone, that is the mathematical gap between when we originally said a phase would be completed and when the current reality says it will actually be completed.
Yes. Tracking variance forces a team to confront delays honestly, rather than just hiding them. And perhaps the most crucial element in this project template is the inclusion of an issues log.
An issues log. Now, why does an issues log prevent failure better than just, talking about our problems?
Because an issues log does not just passively list what is broken. It actually creates a psychological contract.
Interesting.
Yeah, when a project goes into the amber or red zone, forcing a team to formally write down the severity of the problem, the specific owner of the problem, and the exact mitigation steps being taken, it shifts their collective brain out of panic mode.
And into immediate problem solving.
Precisely. The template dictates that you specifically note who must respond by what time and what cross-team dependencies exist. It's just a highly rigorous format designed to keep multi-phase, complex initiatives on track by forcing structure onto chaos.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the guide then scales up one more massive level to formal executive and board minutes.
Yes, a whole different world.
And reading through this section, I couldn't help but compare these formal board minutes to an airplane's black box. It is this perfectly neutral, completely objective audit trail that is fundamentally designed to protect the organization in the event of a crash.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. When you utilize a formal minutes template for a board of directors meeting, you are entirely leaving the realm of internal productivity.
Right.
You are creating a document that becomes legally recognized by auditors, regulators, and potentially courts of law.
So the stakes go from missed deadlines to actual legal liability.
Absolute liability, which is why the structure of this template is aggressively rigid. The header must establish who participated by explicitly recording the quorum.
Meaning mathematically proving that enough voting members were actually present in the room to make a legally binding corporate decision.
Yes. Without a documented quorum, the decisions made in that room can actually be invalidated.
Right.
You also must document any formal conflicts of interest.
Wow, okay.
And the agenda is strictly divided into old business and new business. Plus, the way decisions are recorded is totally different here. For every single agenda item, the note-taker must record formal motions, state who seconded that motion, and tally the exact voting counts.
Down to the exact number of individuals who voted for, voted against, or abstained.
Every single one. You even have to document the specific stated reasons for deferrals or referrals to a committee just to show the underlying logic behind the board's governance choices.
That is incredibly detailed.
And critically, the summaries of the discussions must remain entirely neutral. There is absolutely no editorializing allowed. The note-taker cannot insert opinions or adjectives about how heated an argument got.
It really is a black box. It is just a continuous, emotionless audit trail. You even have to note the formal approval of the previous meeting's minutes so that there is a legally unbroken chain of corporate records.
Yep. And those records must be stored in an accessible archive, often requiring physical or certified digital signatures. It is entirely about compliance, legal protection, and ultimate accountability at the highest echelon of the company.
Okay, so we have covered the entire internal governance side from the quick daily huddle all the way up to the legally binding boardroom.
Right.
But the Smart Keys Guide does not stop there. It moves into specialized, strategic templates for external applications. And I think this makes sense because the moment you introduce a client into the mix, you lose a lot of the assumed internal trust. Right?
Exactly. You need a safety net for those external relationships. The client meeting template is fascinating because it tackles the single biggest danger in professional services.
Which is scope drift.
Does drift.
The slow, insidious creep of a client asking for just one more tiny favor until the project has expanded way beyond what was originally budgeted or agreed upon.
Exactly. Scope drift destroys profitability and it ruins client relationships. So, this specific template is aggressively designed to align expectations and build a fence around the project.
How does it do that?
It forces you to document deliverables, timelines, and acceptance criteria in plain, unambiguous language. But the most effective tactical maneuver the guide highlights is splitting the action items into two distinct columns, you and client.
That is such a simple but powerful psychological trick.
It removes all the polite ambiguity that usually ruins client communications.
Yeah.
Every single action item has an owner and a due date, and it is explicitly categorized.
So no one can say they didn't know.
Right. The client sees exactly what they're responsible for delivering, say, providing brand assets by Tuesday, and they see exactly what your team is delivering.
Yeah.
There's no confusion about whose court the ball is in.
That's brilliant.
Furthermore, the template includes a dedicated field for the recording link and shared resources, ensuring that a month from now, nothing is open to convenient misinterpretation.
It forces total transparency. But what about scenarios where you actively want to avoid rigid boundaries? For instance, the guide outlines a template for informal brainstorming sessions.
Yes.
This seems incredibly counterintuitive to me. Like, absolute freedom is supposed to be the lifeblood of a brainstorm, isn't it? Doesn't slapping a corporate template onto a creative session kind of kill the vibe and cause paralysis?
You would naturally assume so. However, absolute freedom often creates chaos, not creativity.
Fair point.
People talk over each other, the loudest voice dominates, and you end up with a whiteboard full of scribbles and zero actual execution. The guide argues for a loose structure that actually protects the creative process.
Okay, so how do you structure a brainstorm without suffocating it?
You start the template with a mandatory 60-second icebreaker. This is not just for fun. It is a psychological tool to make everyone speak once early on, which makes them feel safer sharing weird ideas later.
Oh, that's clever.
Then you move into a creative corner for rapid-fire, bulleted raw ideas. This keeps the momentum high without stopping to analyze every single thought.
And the text mentions something called a parking lot, which I found really interesting.
The parking lot is a crucial mechanism for any facilitator. It is a dedicated space in the notes for off-topic but potentially valuable ideas.
So you don't lose them, but you don't get derailed either.
Exactly. When someone goes on a tangent, you don't shut them down and hurt their ego. You say, great point, let's put that in the parking lot for next time. It allows you to validate a team member's contribution without letting the entire session get hijacked.
I love that.
Then at the end, to prioritize those wild ideas without killing the flow, the template uses a simple impact versus effort filter. You categorize the ideas, pick the high-impact, low-effort ones, and record them as mini experiments with short deadlines.
So you still manage to walk away with concrete action items, even from a wild creative brainstorm. The guide also touches briefly on department-specific templates. For example, for a sales team, the notes are actively tracking pipeline movement stage by stage, highlighting high-value deals, and requiring a logged reason for every win and loss.
Exactly.
Whereas marketing notes are zeroing in on entirely different metrics, like campaign return on investment, traffic numbers, conversion rates, and SEO wins.
What's fascinating here is how these customized templates act as behavioral guardrails. If you analyze the psychology of it, a well-designed template does not just passively record what happened in the meeting after the fact.
Mm.
It actively dictates the strategic thinking of the participants during the meeting.
Wait, let me stop you there, because that is a profound insight. The document is shaping the conversation.
Yes. Consider the sales template. If the structure of the document demands a specific win or loss reason for every single deal reviewed, the sales team is forced to analyze their own performance and market conditions in real time just to satisfy the form.
They can't just brush past it.
Right. They cannot just say, we lost the deal, moving on. They have to articulate why.
And if you know you have to fill out an owner and a due date for every single marketing experiment, you're naturally going to stop talking in vague hypotheticals about, we should really try video marketing, and you will start making concrete commitments. The template itself is actually managing the psychology of the room.
It acts as an invisible facilitator, steering the team away from philosophical debates and toward measurable execution.
Okay, so we have established all these amazing frameworks and the psychology behind them, but let's ground this in the reality of modern work.
Sure.
How do professionals actually implement these highly structured formats without drowning in administrative overhead? Because honestly, maintaining different documents for huddles, projects, boards, clients, and brainstorms, it sounds like it could easily become a full-time job.
It is a vital question, and the guide addresses it by looking at the evolution of the tech stack and the spectrum of task automation, because we want to avoid administrative bloat at all costs. At the simplest end of the spectrum, you still have your basic Word and Excel templates. Word is highly effective for simple distribution, keeping corporate headings, fonts, and signature lines consistent for things like board minutes.
Makes sense.
And Excel is perfect when a tabular structure helps, for instance, tracking 50 project attendees, owners, and color-coded statuses in rows so a project manager can filter and sort them easily.
But the guide leans heavily into collaborative cloud tools to really solve that administrative burden, correct?
Yes. The real administrative relief unlocks with collaborative platforms. We are talking about cloud-based workspaces like Atlassian's Confluence, Notion, or Evernote-style checklists.
Where everyone is looking at the same thing.
Exactly. In these shared live spaces, multiple members can co-edit the same document simultaneously. And most importantly, you can digitally tag attendees in real time. The guide suggests a practice where the note-taker shares their screen during the call while documenting. This allows everyone in the room to visually validate what is being captured as it happens, which basically eliminates any "I didn't agree to that" arguments later.
It creates live, inescapable accountability. But then the guide transitions into true workflow automation, which feels incredibly futuristic, but is apparently highly accessible right now.
Oh, it is happening everywhere. The modern workflow described by Felix Römer does not rely on a human typing out tasks at all.
Wow.
Instead, it involves utilizing application programming interfaces, or APIs, to connect your tools. You take the raw text transcript auto-generated by your Zoom or Google Meet client, you route that text directly into an AI-integrated project management tool like Asana or Monday.com.
Okay.
The software parses the conversation, identifies action verbs and names, and auto-generates the actual task cards based on what was said.
That is wild.
It is. And finally, an integration tool like Zapier automatically posts a polished, formatted summary of those tasks directly to a dedicated Slack channel or an email thread.
I have to ask a question here, and maybe this is just my own lingering anxiety about technology taking over the human element of work.
Sure, go ahead.
If we completely automate the note-taking and the task assignment, does it make the team disconnected from the commitments they just made? Like if a machine is the thing tracking what I promised to do and creating my to-do list, do I lose that psychological weight of owning the task? Or, looking at it from the flip side, does it actually free up cognitive space so we can do deeper, more meaningful work?
It is one of the most important questions regarding the future of automated work. And according to the philosophy laid out in the guide, it is absolutely the latter. It frees cognitive space.
Okay, how so?
When you automate the transcription and the administrative routing of tasks, you are removing friction. You aren't forcing your highly paid strategic thinkers to focus on the busy work of formatting a Word document or copying and pasting bullet points into an email.
Right.
You are freeing their cognitive load to focus entirely on the strategy, the creative problem solving, and the actual execution of the deliverables.
You are systematically removing the busy work so they can do the actual work they were hired for.
Exactly. Human memory is notoriously fallible, especially when we are juggling 5 different projects.
Oh, for sure.
If an automated system flawlessly parses the transcript and reminds you of exactly what you committed to, you do not have to waste precious mental energy trying to remember it. You just look at your cue and you execute.
Which brings us perfectly to the ultimate question for our listener. We have to tie all these tactical tools, all these psychological frameworks, and these automation workflows back to the bottom line.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the strategic edge a company gains here is undeniable. Adopting this comprehensive approach to meeting notes shifts an entire organizational culture from a state of passive discussion to a state of active delivery.
Action over transcription.
Yes, it is the defining difference between a company that talks endlessly about doing things and a company that actually gets things done.
It effectively plugs all the holes in the tennis racket, turning it into a funnel that catches every drop of value.
It really does. When applied externally, it eliminates scope drift with clients, which directly saves relationships and protects revenue margins.
Yeah.
At the executive level, it provides ironclad legal protection through rigorous audit trails. And on a granular day-to-day basis, it ensures that every single task, no matter how small, has visible accountability at a glance.
Which is huge for morale, honestly.
Absolutely. By reusing these specific template formats weekly, a team builds a predictable, comforting rhythm. You drastically reduce the time spent prepping for meetings. You completely end the miserable cycle of sending endless just following up on this emails. And ultimately, you reclaim thousands of hours of lost productivity across your entire organization.
So what does this all mean? Bringing this all down to a practical Monday morning application for you, the listener.
Start small.
Exactly. The immediate action step recommended by the source material is incredibly pragmatic. Do not try to boil the ocean. Do not try to implement 5 different automated templates tomorrow.
It's too much.
Pick just one starting template today, perhaps the basic team huddle. Use it for your very next team check-in. Reuse that exact same layout every single week to build the behavioral rhythm.
Yes, consistency is key.
And make a hard and fast rule for yourself and your colleagues. Never, ever leave a meeting without listing clear owners and specific due dates for every single action item discussed.
It really is that simple to start. But the compounding effect that structural clarity will have on your team's output over a quarter will be staggering.
It truly changes the entire dynamic of how a team operates. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder on your own.
I love these.
We have talked extensively about how these templates act as behavioral guardrails and reflections of maturity, right? So think about this scenario. If your meeting notes are a direct, unfiltered reflection of your company's execution culture, what would an objective outsider conclude about your team's true effectiveness just by reading the raw minutes from your very last meeting?
Wow.
Are you a tight, efficient machine driving toward a goal, or are you just catching rain with a tennis racket?
That is a very revealing and honestly somewhat intimidating question to ask oneself.
It is the ultimate litmus test for productivity. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Smart Keys podcast. If you found this deep dive valuable and want to keep optimizing how you work, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss our analysis.
And we highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full guide on this topic. It is packed with even more granular insights, visual examples of these templates, and technical setups.
You can find the link to the original article right there in the show notes.
It is highly recommended reading for anyone looking to reclaim their calendar.
Until next time, keep your tasks owned, your deadlines clear, and remember, if it isn't documented with a name next to it, it is probably slipping through the strings. Take care, everyone.